cost is increasing. Okay, then the what do you call, the supply chain basically has a lot of issues if one person in the supply chain is looking at only for his or her own profit. So it has an overall impact. It has an overall impact on the total what you call, the supply chain. Okay, so just a minute students, some technical issues going on. Okay, we'll wait for a few minutes. Okay, so the presentation is not responding. Okay, till it responds, we'll just look at what is bullwhip effect, and the basically the most of the chapter is based on this. Okay, to avoid bullwhip effect, how to avoid, and in the later part, okay, we'll be studying the restructuring part. Okay, so in a supply chain, you know, as it is the name itself suggests, there are different links. Okay, so as and when we are getting more and more links, okay, so our chain is becoming bigger and bigger, and the whole supply chain may not be owned by only single person. Okay, so there might be different owners at different part of the supply chain, or at a particular time of the supply chain, if you see, or a particular link, if you see. Okay, the manufacturer, many a times it will not be the same, like I'm talking about the ownership of the different links of the supply chain. Okay, so the manufacturer, he manufactures, then he appoints some distributors, or the people who can stock his particular products are also called as stockists. Okay, a particular stockist he will be appointing at different regions. Okay, so when that thing is done, okay, so then there could be some distributors. From distributors, there could be some wholesalers. From wholesalers, you are going to retailers. From retailers, it is going to the consumers. Okay, so this is the a typical normal supply chain. So each particular link could be owned by a different person. The manufacturer, you know, is a person who manufactures, and there is one more behind this manufacturer also, the supplier for the manufacturer. So even he is in the particular supply chain link. Okay, so again, the supplier may be a different person who is supplying the products to the manufacturer, or in terms of integration, we call integration, where a manufacturer acquires his suppliers as well. This is called as backward integration. And forward integration, he will be acquiring his the stockists or the distributors, okay, on the front part of the supply chain. So when each and every person is looking out for his own benefits, okay, what happens? So the problem arises in the whole supply chain. So only one person says that yes, I need more profits in whole of the supply chain. So this is a very big issue actually. Okay, so what is happening here is, okay, so at the customer's end there will be a slight variation. Okay, some people may take more, like for example a month's whatever the products required for a month, or the amount or the quantity required for a month will be bought by them at one time. There are other people who go for weekly purchases. Okay, so they only buy the products or the items or the quantity that is required for only the
नचिकेत. हो नच्या. सर किधर गया रे?
पता नहीं।
थोड़ा वेट करेंगे, रुको अभी, नहीं तो टेक्स्ट करेंगे सर को.
हम्म।
Yeah, I think there was a technical issue, students. I don't know whether you were hearing me or not. Okay, so let us see. Okay, so we are looking at the obstacles to coordination in a supply chain. So these are the roadblocks, as I was telling you. So in the supply chain, if the coordination is not proper, okay, so what kind of issues we can face? Okay, so any factor that leads to either local optimization by different stages of the supply chain, or an increase in the information delay, distortion, and variability within the supply chain is an obstacle to coordination. Okay, so in this case, if you see information delay, so if there is some information that has to be gone through the supply chain and you are having a delay, like for example, if a manufacturer is going to start an promotion campaign of his particular products, and if it is not being told to the supply chain at the lower end, what happens is even those people will not be ready, because as the promotion kicks in, it may so happen that the sales may increase, and these particular people in the supply chain may not be aware of this, or like the manufacturer may do it, or the even the retailer may do it, or like for example, you are supplying to any of the uh, hypermarts or the supermarkets, so they might come up with some discounts. So if you are not being informative to the other links in the supply chain, there could be some distortion. Now if you say that okay, when I start I am going to inform, so what happens if suddenly the demand increases, the other parts in the supply chain or the other links may not be able to support you as much as they could, right? So that is one. And distortion, so distortion is, we spoke about the safety stock. Okay, so safety stock is for me, I will not be informing someone else. Okay, so that I am maintaining this much of safety stock. It's based on the monthly or the quarterly or the yearly sales. Based on this I will be having a particular safety stock with me. Okay, and the variability, so there could be some variations, as I told you, like if there is a particular promotion activity going on, or some discount activities are going on, like suddenly a particular hypermarket says that okay, I'm going to give a discount of 10%. So it might be having a lot of what you call uh, stack up of a particular product might be there. So suddenly it says that okay, I'm going to give a discount of 10%. I need to have a clearance sale now. I'll give some 10% or 20% discount. So if people come to know this and they rush to buy, so suddenly when they empty that particular whatever stack up was there with that particular hypermarket, so suddenly it will not stop. Okay, so again, even if it is empty, people will start asking for that particular product if it is there. So suddenly the demand spike happens. So in the supermarket, those people are giving the order to the next person in the supply chain link. Okay, and it goes on till the manufacturer. So from there, you need to get the products and it has to be distributed, or it has to be what you call, from one side it has to be relocated to the other side. Okay, as a manufacturer, he might be having multiple products with him. Okay, in multiple quantities. So now if he is sending in 5 places, instead of 5 places, he'll send to 4 places, or at one place he is going to reduce the order, and he has to uh, divert that particular extra which is being required, okay, from wherever exactly what they have ordered for. From there they have he has to take that particular product and has to send it to this particular hypermarket now. Okay, so or one more thing is, he will ask the particular hypermarket to wait for some time. The lead time will increase now, because this particular additional demand was not taken into planning. Okay, was not taken into consideration while the production planning was done. Okay, so this is the variability within the supply chain and an obstacle to the coordination. So these all things, like the increase or decrease in the quantity what is required, information delay, distortion, and variability within the supply chain. So we divide the major obstacles into 5 categories. So which are they? Incentive obstacles, information processing obstacles, then operational obstacles, pricing obstacles, and behavioral obstacles. Now coming to the first one, incentive obstacle. So what is incentive obstacle? Incentive obstacles. What are these? Incentive obstacles occur in situations when incentive offered to different stages or participants in a supply chain lead to actions that increase variability and reduce total supply chain profits. So what are incentives? In general, incentives means anything that is given. It could be in terms of money, it could be in terms of some facilities, it could be in terms of some services. Okay, so these all are coming under incentives. So let's take some additional money is given. Okay, like if you sell a particular number of product of a particular company, they are paying you something more. Like for example, a particular person in a marketing department, if is reaching his particular target, okay, then he will be given some additional incentives. It could be some the when a particular person is reaching a target, and on top of that how many products he is going to sell, a certain part, for example 2% or 1% or 3%, something like this, could be given to him as the incentive for working more than what was the targeted amount given to him, or targeted quantity given to him. Okay, so these are incentives. So when there are some issues in the incentives in different supply chain, okay, supply chain in the sense different parts of the supply chain. So in one place we are giving more, in one place if you are giving less and all. So what happens, there is an issue that is created. So due to this, so if somebody says, okay, he says that he is in requirement of money and he tries pushing as much as possible, okay, suddenly the demand increases. And at the other side of the supply chain, there is a lot of pile up or stock up of that particular product that happens. Okay, so incentive obstacles are of two types. One is local optimization within functions or stages of supply chain, and the second one is sales force incentives. I was talking about this. So we'll see what are these. Local optimization within functions or stages of supply chain. So incentives that focus only on the local impact of an action result in decisions that do not maximize total supply chain profits. Like for example, if I am a distributor and my manufacturer says, okay, my manufacturer says, so if you are able to sell, if you are able to sell double the quantity that you buy, in the sense normally buy. Okay, for example, he is buying 100 products per month. If the manufacturer says, if you are able to sell, okay, 200 quantities, so I'll be giving you additional 20%. Okay, I'll reduce the amount by 20%. So it could so happen that the manufacturer also has a lot of inventory of that particular product and he wants to sell it. So it's kind of a what you call discount sale. So here you cannot see, there is no board or something. It is directly informed to the distributor from the manufacturer, stating that okay, you have to sell more. If you sell more, then I am giving you so much of discount. It is basically like a retail store where you can see 10% discount, 20% discount, or up to 40% discount. Why they do it? Because to clear off the inventory that they have, right? So this is being done by the manufacturer now. So now what happens, this person who is looking at 20% discount, okay, now says that okay, not an issue, so I'll be selling it. So what he does, he starts pushing the products in front of the supply chain. So now the distributor pushes the products to the retailer, and the retailer again pushes the products to the consumer. So this is what happens. So even if there is no demand, we are trying to push our product into the market. Okay, we are continuously pushing the products into the market. So this is a person who is looking at some incentives. So now what happens, so just like that, you cannot tell the retailers, okay, buy this and uh, if you sell this at the same price, okay, you'll be giving at the same price. No, you cannot do it. As the manufacturer said that I'll be giving you 20% discount, the distributor says I'll give you some additional 3% or 5% discount in the further thing. So he will not give all the 20% to him. So he says that I'll give you some 5% additional than what I am giving you. So even he might be thinking that okay, 5% is not much or more, whatever. But as there is a push that is going on from the distributor side, okay, there are many instances or many times what happens is, by because of the pressure, the retailer takes it and he just dumps it. If he is able to sell it or not, he will not care, he'll just take and keep it. Okay, so suddenly what happens is, now the retailer is having more in quantity than what was required to him. So if he was able to sell, well and good. If not, what happens, he will delay the next order to him, because he's already having some products with him, right? So this is what happens at this particular stage. Buying decisions based on maximizing profits at a single stage of a supply chain lead to ordering policies that do not maximize supply chain profits. So what happens now? Suddenly all the cost will increase because he has to send more, Okay, the company is already has produced more, so that's not an issue. But what happens is the next order there will be a lot of delay. Okay, so initially the transportation cost went high, and next time there will be no transportation only because the order will not be put for a longer period of time now. So instead of ordering for next month, he'll say, okay, this month I'm already having the products with me, I'll be uh, ordering in the next month now. So instead of 1 month gap, he gives 2 months gap. Okay, so these are some of the things which are impacting the overall supply chain. Okay, if the transportation guy he was looking for some orders or to be fulfilled to transport from one place to another, he will not get anything for that particular month from this particular customer. Okay, so suddenly what happens, there is a disruption that happens due to some push and pull in the supply chain. Okay, this is local optimization. Next would be sales force and incentives. So this is like still now in the companies this happens. So what I'm talking to you is sales force incentives. So there is a target, as I told you, there is a target given to each and every person in a company, right? Even for production there is a target stating that you need to reach this much of production units in this much of time. Similarly, when you are coming to marketing, so they will be having a target stating that marketing and sales basically, that you need to have so much of promotions this particular month, you need to have so much of sales this particular month, and so on. So what happens, like if you are a person who is working in the marketing department or the sales department or sales and marketing department of a particular manufacturing company, so what happens? The review happens on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, half yearly basis, and a yearly basis. So what happens? Whatever I said now, at the end of these particular things, there will be a push that happens from the company's side to the next person in the supply chain. So what happens? Like for example, I am the company, okay, and there is my distributor. So I told you review will happen every month, okay, every quarter, half yearly and yearly. So as and when we are very much nearing the end of that particular month, so what happens? There is a push from the manufacturers, marketing or the sales team, stating that buy more, buy more, buy more, because there is a target that has to be met by those particular people. So if they push it further to the distributor, what happens? He is further pushing it to the trying to push that particular product to the customer, okay, or the end consumer. So what happens, instead of buying one, the customer, this particular retailer says that okay, he tries to convince him to buy two or buy three products at a time. He tries to bundle it. So there could be some authority given to these particular people at the lower end. Okay, it does not happen with all the products, with some products. So they can bundle it. Okay, like for example, buy three get one free. Okay, so many a times it comes from the manufacturer only, but there are some products and some distributors and the retailers are given this particular authority to do these things. Okay, so they can give like buy three get one free, or buy three, in the next offer there could be some 10% discount or something like that, some coupon would be given or something like that. So this could be locally also done. So we never know, he uses some particular tactics, that is the retailer, then he tries to push the product to the consumer. Okay, so same thing happens at the time of a quarter. Quarter means every 3 months. Okay, so at the end of particular third month, there is a huge push that happens because review quarterly there could be a particular review done. Okay, from last quarter to this quarter, how much has been the sales has increased or decreased, or what is the percentage of sales that we have done. Okay, so there will be comparison from last year to this year in general. So they may even go back also. Okay, even go back like 2 years or 3 years of that particular quarter. So what was the sales in that particular quarter? Like for example, we are presently starting with the first quarter. Okay, so not starting, we are about to end. The results of the first quarter of the companies are about to come. So those who are look into the stock market and all, the results of the first quarter are coming of all the companies. That means the first quarter is done. and whatever they have done in one quarter is being told to the public. So this is what is the review that is being going on. So here the profits, okay, the sales, okay, the operating costs, everything will be told to the consumers or the shareholders. Basically they want to know it, they are the part owners of that particular company if you buy shares. So every quarter, okay, there will be a particular information given to them, like how many products were sold, what was the turnover, okay, then what is the profit, net profit, gross profit, how much are the operating costs, okay. So all these things are being shared to the people. So similarly when the end of that particular quarter comes, to show there are good numbers, okay, that our company is doing well, there is a lot of pushing that happens from the manufacturers especially to the lower parts of the supply chain. So what happens here is when you are pushing at that last third month of that particular quarter, so next month of the first quarter or the next quarter, first month of the next quarter, there may not be any orders from the distributor because you have already dumped so much that he is struggling to sell it further. So what he does, he will not put any order for the next month. So again, there is an issue now because suddenly there was increase in the third month of the previous quarter. Now in this quarter, first month, there is no order. Why? Because dumping has been done. Okay, the company even does not look for the sales at the end user. Okay, they only look at their sales, their part of sales. Like for example, if I am the company, manufacturing company, my sales would be I am giving it to the distributor, I am selling it to the distributor. I am not going to see that whether how he is selling it to the retailer and how retailer is selling it to the customer. I am not looking at it because my sales is I am selling it to the distributor, done, my work is done, I am selling it to the distributor. But what distributor does, again he does the same thing, that he is not going to look into how the retailer sells. He is just going to dump, in the sense he is just going to sell it to the retailer. So what happens here in the retailer part, there is a lot of variation that happens. Okay, so as I told you, every month or every quarter, end of the quarter, you are pushing, right, the stock of the products increases at the end of a particular quarter, and in the first month of the next quarter there will be no orders itself because dumping has been already done. So we are looking at the orders, we are not looking at the sales. So this could have a large impact in the supply chain. Okay, so we can see here improperly structured sales force incentives are a significant obstacle to the coordination in the supply chain. So what we are saying is improper structured sales force, in the sense sales force incentives. So we say that if you reach the target, we are going to give you so much. So there is so much of hook and crook that happens. Basically, people used to sell the products. Okay, so from the company side also that happens, from the distributor side also that happens, and it continues like anything. Okay, so what happens later, I just explained, like there will be dumping that will be happening and there will be no orders in the subsequent particular period. Okay, so in many firms sales force incentives are based on the amount of sales force sells during an evaluation period of a month or a quarter. I gave you this month or a quarter, so there will be a push. The sales typically measured by a manufacturer are the quantity sold to distributors or retailers. Okay, so it is the quantity sold to the distributors or the retailers and not to the end consumers. So this is called as sell in. Okay, and not the quantity sold to the final consumers, sell through. So two words, sell in and sell through. Sell in the sense it is still in the supply chain itself. Okay, so this is not reaching the end consumer. Okay, so we are just selling in. That means I am pushing from the manufacturer to the distributor, from the distributor to the retailer. So we are not going to the customers. So when we reach the customers, it is called as sell through. We are through with the supply chain process. That means from the manufacturer to the consumers. Okay, so here the problem is we are not looking at sell through, we are looking at only sell in. Okay, so that is where we are getting a lot of issues of pile up of the products and the incentives. So because of the incentives, what the sales team does, it tries to push the products further. Okay, then measuring performance based on sell-in is often justified on the grounds that manufacturer sales force does not control the sell-through. So what these people are saying is manufacturers cannot have a control on the consumers. They cannot look at the sell-through. So that is what is the reason they give, and they are just looking into sell-in. Okay, so this creates again a lot of disruption or a regular interval of time. Then come information processing obstacles. So what happens here? Information processing obstacles occur in situations when demand information is distorted as it moves between the different stages of the supply chain, leading to increased variability in orders within the supply chain. Okay, so here in the sense exact information is not given. So we are taking into consideration the safety stock, okay, or the additional stock that I want to keep in my what you call storage basically. Okay, so here also we are having two types. One is forecasting based on orders and not on customer demand, and the second one is the lack of information sharing. So we'll look at the first one, that is forecasting based on orders and not customer demand. So when stages within a supply chain make forecasts that are based on orders they receive. Okay, so I just told we are not looking into see through, we are just looking into sell in, not see through, it's sell through. Sorry, we are not looking at sell through, we are looking at sell in. So that is what we are doing here. We are not looking at the end sales, we are looking at only the orders. Okay, so what happens here? Variability in the customer demand is magnified as orders move up the supply chain to manufacturers and suppliers. So it goes on magnified from one level to the other level, because I take my safety stock into consideration, not looking at the sales that is happening. I am looking at the products that are not there. I don't want to lose that opportunity. So what I do, I'll start stacking up. If I start stacking up, it goes on moving in the supply chain. It goes on increasing. So the next person says, even I need to have some more quantity with me. So he'll add his safety stock to it. That it goes on up to the manufacturer. It could have been multiple folds. Like if it was like the order for the manufacturer was 20 in number for a particular week, it becomes suddenly 60 or 80 because of this particular safety stock that is increasing. Okay, this is the distortion that is happening due to not looking into sell through. Okay, in supply chain that exhibit the bullwhip effect, the fundamental means of communication between different stages are the orders that are placed. Okay, so the main cause that happens due to the communication issue, which will be creating a bullwhip effect, okay, throughout the supply chain. In such a scenario, a small change in customer demand becomes magnified as it moves up the supply chain in the form of customer orders. The order would be very small, okay, the variation in the orders would be very small, but till it reaches the manufacturer, it could have multiplied multiple folds. Okay, it could have magnified multiple folds also. Okay, considering the impact of a random increase in customer demand at a retailer, the retailer may interpret part of this random increase as a growth trend. Okay, so what they might think is because of the more popularity, the sales is increasing and this is going to be constant in the future. Means this much only of the product that is being sold today will be sold tomorrow also. Or in the sense, if a particular number of sales that is happening or the percentage of increase in sales that is happening this month will also increase in the next month. Okay, so this is what they think. They don't know what is behind this particular increase in the sales. They don't want what is happening over there. They want that okay, my sales should happen and the sales is happening, so I need to be prepared if certain the same things happen in the next month. So there is increase in the order or the increase in the demand of the order basically, and not sell through. Okay, so this is the forecasting based on orders and not on customer demand. Then is lack of information sharing. So here the lack of information sharing between stages of the supply chain magnifies the bullwhip effect. So because there is no transparency what is going on in each section of the supply chain, there could be a bullwhip effect seen. So for example, if you see a retailer such as Walmart may increase the size of a particular order because of planned promotion. So I told you, like a hypermarket. So even Walmart is a hypermarket where it is planning to increase its orders or increase its size of the buying. Okay, why? Because it is planning for a promotional activity. Okay, it's trying to have a promotional activity for Walmart, stating that okay, more discounts could be given for this particular days and all. So when people come in large number, the sales also happen. So he is trying to prepare himself, the Walmart is trying to prepare himself for the increase in demand due to the promotion that he is planning. Okay, promotional efforts that is going to plan. So if the manufacturer is not aware of the planned promotion, it may interpret the larger order as permanent increase in the demand and place orders with suppliers accordingly. So what happens if Walmart or the hypermarket is not telling the planned promotion that it's going to make in the other parts of the supply chain? What happens? Or if it doesn't reaches the manufacturer, so what happens? The manufacturer think that okay, there could be some popularity of my product in the market, and it is going to increase. It has increased and it's going to stay in that particular increased way only, but they are not aware that a particular promotional activity is being done by this particular Walmart. Okay, so what happens? It starts producing more. So to produce more, it has to order more from the suppliers. So there is a magnification effect that is happening again throughout the supply chain. This is because of lack of information sharing. Next comes operational obstacles. So what are operational obstacles? Operational obstacles occur when actions taken in the course of placing and filling the orders lead to an increase in variability. So at the time of placing the order, okay, so and filling the particular empty space in your uh, particular store. Okay, so at this particular time there is a huge variability that happens. So here we are having three types. So one is ordering in large lots, large replenishment lead times, and the rationing and shortage gaming. So this is a bit interesting here. All the three are interesting, you can see. So what is ordering in large lots? So you already know, if there is an increase or decrease in the quantity that if you are producing, the prices also increase or decreasing. Similarly, when you are buying wholesale and retail, what we call, so if you are buying in wholesale, the price reduces. So this is what is a lot. Okay, so lot is a set of multiple products. So the lot size may differ. Okay, but a lot is called a group of or a set of particular products. So when a firm places orders in lots or in lot sizes that are much larger than the lot sizes in which demand arises, okay, variability of order is magnified up the supply chain. Firms may order in large lots because there is a significant fixed cost associated with placing, receiving, or transporting an order. So here people try to get a bigger lot because there's a lot of fixed cost that is associated. Okay, in the sense placing. So in the sense placing means putting an order. So when I say I am putting an order for 2 quantity, and when I'm putting an order for 20 quantity, there is a difference. Okay, the manufacturer may give him additional discounts. Okay, so to avail that particular additional discount, the distributor may place an order of a huge quantity. Then receiving or transportation also, like once for all you are transporting. Okay, like for example, half a truck, if you are buying earlier, now you say that instead of buying half a truck, I'll buy a whole truckload of the products. I am getting more discount also from the manufacturer also, and my transportation cost is also being saved. Also the receiving cost, that means I'll employ some 2 3 people, they'll unload it, and the cost is also reduced over there because I need not maintain these particular people for long period of time. I say I'll hire some people, I'll ask them to unload it, and I'll pay them, and the deal is done. Right? So to avoid these particular extra costs unnecessarily. So these people are ordering in bulk lots or in multiple lots, we can say. So a manufacturer supplying several retailers who batch their orders faces an order stream that is much more variable than the demand the retailers experience. If the manufacturer further batches its order to suppliers, the effect is further magnified. In the sense, the distributor is buying in batches or in lots from the manufacturer. So if he is selling in lots, okay, to the retailers, again there could be a huge impact. So instead of one lot, if he is buying two lots, okay. So for example, a distributor has some 100 retailers under him. He's supplying some 100 retailers, and each retailer is buying one lot. Okay, so now what this particular distributor is doing, he's putting an order of 100 lots to the manufacturer. Now what he says, manufacturer says instead of 100, if you increase it by just 20, okay, if you buy 120 lots, so there is an additional 2% discount that is given to you. Okay, so you can say that only 1 or 2%, the number is small, but the amount is very huge. Okay, so that is why, so 2 to 3%. So like for example, I'll give you in terms of land, buying and selling of land. If you see, okay, if there is a particular middleman, okay, if a middleman is there, is going to charge you around 1 to 2%. Okay, so 1 to 2% you might say, like what is going to get. So if the deal is in crores together, is getting in lakhs. Okay, that's how the difference is. So you cannot say that I want 10% or 20% when the size or the price is very high. So that is what happens here. So to increase this, so what he does, instead of buying for 100, he'll buy for 120, and he'll try to push it further. So instead, for few customers who are buying in one lot, he'll say buy two lots or buy one and a half lot or something. So because as a distributor, he can open that particular lot now, or he can sell in half part or quarter part of the total quantity. Like if there is a particular lot of 10, so you can buy one lot of you can sell one lot of 10, or you can make it further, like you can split the lots into 2 to 2. Okay, you can make 5 lots in that, and he could say that okay, you buy 3 lots, you buy 5 lots or something like that. So that is being given to the, that freedom is given to the distributor also. Okay, so this is ordering in large lots. So we are trying to reduce our all kind of costs by ordering in large quantities. Then large replenishment lead times. The bullwhip effect is magnified if replenishment lead times between stages are long. So what we are telling is, from the point of order to the point of getting the material. Okay, so there is some time that is being required even by the manufacturer, also even by the distributor, and till it reaches the end customer. Okay, why? Because some time is required to produce it, right? So it may go in hours, it may go in days, it may go in weeks, it may go in months also. So if there is a longer replenishment time, for example, if I put order today, I am going to get the product after a month. So what happens here? After a month, if you see, it will not work. Okay, after a month, but the customer is standing in front of me. I need to sell it to him, right? I cannot say the customer wait for a month. He goes to some other place and he buys it, right? So what I do to avoid this? So I'll put additional order. Okay, so if the customer says I want 5 quantity, I'll put order for 7 quantity or 8 quantity. If some other customer comes stating that I need 1 or 2, I'll be having with me some products, okay, that I can sell. Or if the next customer also says I need 5 products, he could sell him some 2 to 3 whatever additional he has bought, and ask him to wait for some time. Okay, then when the next order comes, he will be giving it to him. So he's trying to manage his demand. So when the replenishment time is high, even the fluctuations in the buying pattern will increase or decrease drastically. Okay, the bullwhip effect is magnified if replenishment lead times between stages are long. So you saw why. Okay, then consider a situation in which a retailer has misinterpreted a random increase in demand as a growth trend. For example, due to some particular promotional activity by some person in the supply chain, so there is an increase in the demand. So but what a particular retailer thinks that is that that the order is going to be remaining the same, or the demand will be remaining the same as it has increased now. Okay, so if the retailer faces a lead time of 2 weeks, so here they have given the example of 2 weeks, it will incorporate the anticipated growth over 2 weeks when placing an order. In the sense, if the demand has increased today, okay, and per week I need to check like how much quantity I am selling. For example, 10 quantity I am selling per week, so I know that is the lead time is for 2 weeks. So what I do is I put an order of 20 quantity or 30 quantity, because I need 2 weeks to get it, right? I need 2 weeks to get it. So until next order, I could be selling whatever I am having. So I need some additional also. So instead of putting 20 for 2 weeks or just 10 for 1 week, he's going to put 30, because he doesn't want to send his customers back. Okay, so as the lead time increases, there is a lot of variation that happens in the supply chain. So in contrast, if the retailer faces a lead time of 2 months, it will incorporate into its order the anticipated growth over 2 months. So just imagine like if he's selling 10, so the order was 20 for 2 weeks. Now, if the lead time is 2 months, so there are 4 weeks in 1 month, 2 months, 8 weeks, 8 into 10, 80. Instead of the order for putting 10, 20 is putting now order for 80 to 100 now. Okay, so he thinks 80 is the minimum uh, demand that will be there. So he will be buying some more extra. So he might put an order of 100. Instead of 20, 30, the order has reached now to 100. Okay, so this is an effect that happens because of large replenishment lead times. Okay, next, rationing and shortage gaming. So this is bit interesting here. Okay, so rationing schemes that allocate limited production in proportion to the orders placed by retailers lead to a magnification of the bullwhip effect. This can occur when a high demand product is in short supply. So if something is in high demand and the supply is less, so what happens? The bullwhip effect increases. That means the demand is increasing. So for example, I am here today going to a particular store and asking for a particular product. Okay, I'll go and ask him whether do you have this particular product. He says I don't have. So what I'll do, I'll leave that particular store, I'll go to the next store. Okay, similarly, 10 people come and they start asking. So what happens? So there are 10 retailers, okay, who has seen 10 people asking for the product. Okay, the demand is only 10. But what that particular retailer thinks, there is a lot of demand. So 10 people have come and asked. So I don't have now. So what I'll do, I'll put an order. All the 10 of them will put minimum 10 order, because in a short period of time there was 10 inquiries, right? So now what happened? Suddenly the demand increased. The product is not there, the demand has increased suddenly. So what is happening now? There is a huge order that goes to the manufacturer. So what the manufacturer does, okay, it's not that for manufacturer from all the direction he has to send to all the people. It's not that he is only selling to one particular area or to the one particular distributor, because there will be multiple distributors for one manufacturer, and that distributor will be having multiple retailers with him. So similarly, so for order of 10 only, for the demand of 10 only, now 10 people are putting 10 order. So what happens now? It has magnified by 10%. Sorry, magnified by 10 times. Okay, so 10 was there. So 10 people are putting the order for 10. So order was for 10. Okay, but the demand, sorry, order was for 100. The demand is for only 10, right? There was demand for 10, because it was gone to 10 different retailers. So now all the 10 retailers are putting orders further of 10 again. So 10 into 10 is 100. Excuse me. So what the manufacturing company does, so one commonly used rationing, this is called as rationing, okay, scheme is to allocate the available supply of products based on orders placed. Like for example, it is even that is given here. Under this rationing scheme, if the supply available is 75% of the total orders received, like example, if the total order received is of 100 quantity and I'm only able to produce 75. So what I'll do is I will give only 75% to each of my order. Okay, 75% to each of my order. So if one person says I want 30 quantity, I'll be giving him 75% of 30 quantity, because I need to match or I need to give to all the people. I cannot say I can replenish for some people and others you have to wait for a longer period of time. That will not work, because there is an opportunity loss that happens at the end. So what I do, अभी इतना लो, okay, I'll give you in some time, बाकी का पहुंचा दूंगा. So what they do is, so if the order is for total 100 and if your capacity is only production of 75 numbers, what you do, you give only 75% for each and every order. So this is called as rationing. So what happens if we do this? Okay, because you know the order is there with me, I mean the demand is there in the market. The customer has put an order to me stating that I need a certain quantity, and if I am only getting 75% of that particular quantity, I am losing 25% if the customer is not ready to wait. So what I do, I increase it by 25%. Instead of putting order for 10 quantity, what I'll do, I'll increase it by 25%. I'll say I'll be putting order for 13 quantity. So even if I am, the manufacturer is reducing it by 25%, or if he is only providing 75%, even I'll be getting 100% of the order that is being placed by the customer, right? So here again there is an increase in the demand. So what happens here? So this rationing scheme results in a game in which retailers try to increase the size of the orders. So instead of buying the exact amount what the ordered by the customer, he says I'll order more, because if the company sends me less, okay, I can manage, or I can give the full amount to him, and whatever it is sending later, I'll be looking for customers till then. Okay, so what do they do? This rationing scheme results in a game in which retailers try to increase the size of their orders to increase the amount supplied to them. So you can see the example here. A retailer needing 75 unit orders 100 units in the hope of getting 75. Okay, the order is for 75 only, but as I know that I'll be getting only 75% of 75 units. So what I do is, instead of ordering for 75, I'll order for 100. If the company gives me 75% also, I am getting 75 units and I can give it to the customers. So here there is a variation. Here there is a variation in the order, because the demand was completely different and the order that the manufacturer is getting completely different. It is increased by 25%. Okay, so this is what happens. So next, pricing obstacles. So what are pricing obstacles? These obstacles arise when the pricing policy for a product lead to an increase in variability of ordered products. Okay, or orders placed. That means as the variability in the orders increase or decrease, the prices also will increase or decrease accordingly. So here also two kinds. One is lot size based quantity discounts, then price fluctuations. Lot size based quantity discounts and price fluctuation. So lot size based quantity discounts in the sense, lot size based quantity discounts increase the lot size of orders placed within the supply chain. The resulting large lots magnifies the bullwhip effect within the supply chain. So we just discussed, as the number of quantity increases, or the number of products that you are buying will increase, the price or the discount will increase. The price will decrease, the discount will increase, right? So when we are looking at lot based quantity discounts, so people they try to buy more than what is required to avail that particular discounts that is being given to you because of ordering in bulk. So to avail that particular discounts, people are buying in more quantity. That means the supply chain is starting a particular bullwhip effect. Okay, if it is not properly maintained. Okay, because more is being taken, and the next order there will be a huge gap. So suddenly there will be increase in the demand for one particular period, and suddenly there will be a decrease in the uh, demand for the next period, because the people in the supply chain, different parts will be having additional amount of the products with them, so they'll try to sell that first. Okay, so then they'll put an next order, so there is a huge variation, once it will increase and once it will decrease. So next, price fluctuations. Trade promotions and other short-term discounts offered by a manufacturer result in forward buying, by which a wholesaler or retailer purchases large lots during the discounting period to cover demand during the future periods. Here, when I say like some promotional activity or something is happening, I am giving more of discounts. So instead of buying one, I'll buy three. Okay, like for example, I'm buying some soap, which I can use it for 1 month, right? So instead, when I say buy two get one free, so what I'm doing, I am making the person buy additional quantity. So what the consumer say that, okay, I'm getting 50% more, right? I'll buy only two, I'm getting one more bar free. So now if he is using for that particular soap for 1 month, he is not going to come back for minimum 2 to 3 months now. Okay, if he is keeping some supply, like some safety supply, so when the last bar is being taken, he'll come, that means after 2 months. If he says that, okay, like even that gets half, that means 2.5 months, after 2.5 months he comes to buy again. So instead your what do you call, the sales, instead of it being in a particular way for a larger period of time, what happens, you are only creating a thing that a person has to buy more than what is required. Okay, so because of this there's a disruption that happens. Then forward buying results in large orders during the promotion period, followed by very small orders after that. Okay, so what happens is suddenly there is an increase in the orders, and in the next period there is a huge what you call, fall in the order. Why? Because people have already bought and stacked up, right? So because of the price fluctuations, even this will happen. Next, behavioral obstacles. So what are these behavioral obstacles? Behavioral obstacles are problems in learning within organizations that contribute to the bullwhip effect. These problems are often related to the way the supply chain is structured and the communications between different stages. So how am I having my particular supply chain, and what kind of communications that is happening between each stage of my communication? Okay. So what happens here is if the supply chain is not properly maintained, okay, I am not looking for a sell through and I'm just looking for a sell in. So what happens here is the disruptions that start due to various reasons like miscommunication. Okay, like a delay in the communication, then due to some information that is not given, like some discounts or anything, from the pricing variations, because of all these things there could be a bullwhip effect that is introduced into the supply chain. Then some of the behavioral obstacles are as follows. Each stage of the supply chain views its actions locally and is unable to see the impact of its action on other stages. That means I gave an example, if only one part of the supply chain or one link tries to have more of the what you call, more of the profits for itself, so it will not be looking at the other links in the supply chain. You are basically hampering the whole supply chain by just looking at your profits. Okay, this is one. Second one, different stages, different stages, different stages of the supply chain react to the current local situation rather than trying to identify the root cause. Okay, so we are just looking at immediate rise in the demand and we are not looking at why has that particular demand has increased. Okay, whether those many new customers have come to me, or it's a momentary increase that has happened due to some discounts or something that is there in the supply chain. Okay, next is based on local analysis, different stages of supply chain blame each other for the fluctuations, with successive stages in the supply chain becoming enemies rather than accomplices. Okay, or rather than partners. So here what I do now, if something happens, there is a large inventory with me, I'll start blaming the next person in the supply chain that he is pushing the products to me, he is not looking at what is the sales and is just trying to push the products to me. Okay, or I can blame it to the on the places of customers also, that the customers are not buying my product on a regular basis, so that has an huge effect again. So instead of me being a partner in the supply chain, what I am doing now, I am becoming enemies of other people in the supply chain. Okay, so this will not work at a longer period of time, because you are blaming one person and that person is blaming someone else. Okay, so at the end what happens, it leads to the collapse of that particular supply chain. So next, if you see, fourth one, no stage of the supply chain learns from its actions over time, because the most significant consequences of the actions at any one stage takes occur elsewhere. The result is a vicious cycle in which actions taken by a stage create the very problem that the stage blames on others. That means what we are saying is we are only looking at ourselves. We are not looking at the different parts of the supply chain. We are only looking at what is happening to me. I am blaming the other people for what is happening. Even I am contributing to it. Excuse me. So that is what it is said, problem that the stages blames on others. So even this will be this particular stage will be the part of that problem, but they are stating that okay, that part is having a problem, or this particular next part is having a problem or creating a problem. We are not looking at ourselves that we are also the part of the problem. Okay, next is last one, a lack of trust among supply chain partners causes them to be opportunistic at the expense of overall supply chain performance. The lack of trust also results in significant duplication of efforts. More important, information available at different stages is either not shared or is ignored because it is not trusted. That means I start blaming different people for different things. Okay, like for example, there is a good sales. Okay, if there is a huge effort from the retailer, I'll, as a distributor, I'll say yes, I have done it. Okay, that will not work. So this has a lot of duplication effect. Okay, then at the last thing is we are not trusting each other and we are not giving exact information of what is happening in the market. So there is a huge disruption that may happen and may lead to collapse in the supply chain at the end. Okay, so we'll stop here for today and we'll continue in the next class. Okay, with the restructuring part of the supply chain.